Hey guys, today I'm going to go over some basics of how to seafoam your vehicle through the intake. You can actually seafoam through 3 different ways. Through your gas, you can seafoam your oil, or you can do it through your intake. What seafoam basically is as far as I believe, or as far as I know, is it's a carbon remover. It cleans the injectors, cleans up your cylinders, gets carbon basically off of your pistons and your valves. If your vehicle's pretty new, you most likely don't need to do this, but if you're reaching over 100,000 miles, it's not going to hurt to do this. It's actually not going to hurt at all to do it at any mileage, as long as you do it the right way. That's what I'm going to show you guys today. We're going to do it through your intake. There's 16 fluid ounces. It says to use 1/3 at a time. So if you wanted to, you could do it all 3 ways through your oil, your intake, as well as your gas. With the gas, you just pour it in to your gasoline, and or I guess it can be used in diesel applications. With your oil, all you'd have to do is throw in 1/3 right before your oil change. Let it run for a little while. Let's see. It says 1 pint treats 10 quarts of oil. I'd probably follow their directions. This is a pint, so 10 quarts of oil. So you'd only have to use half a can for 5 quarts, which is what a normal engine has in it. I wouldn't keep it in there for very long. I'd say run for about 10 miles and then empty it out, because this stuff will actually strip oil off of your cylinders and anything that gets touched with oil, but it's not going to hurt it if you only do it for a minimum amount of time. All right, so I'm going to teach you guys how to do this through your... All right, let's get down to business. I'm going to show you a variety of different vehicles and where to actually seafoam from for your intake. Just something that you can look into so you know what to look for. This is a 2008 Pontiac G6 with the Ecotec 2.4 liter. In this case, just from what I see, I'm not too familiar with this vehicle. What I would do is, you can see right here is where the oil ventilates through the intake. What I would probably do with this one is I would take off your oil ventilating pipe and put on another rubber hose and seafoam through there, not into your engine, but into this box itself. So take this off and put another pipe on, or another rubber tube, and go through this intake itself, because when the engine is on, it'll go through your throttle body plate and into the engine itself through the intake. Now, over here we have a 1992 Nissan 240SX. This was my little play toy for a little bit. It's now sold, but I'm going to show you real quick another quick place to look if you were to want to seafoam your vehicle. In a lot of older vehicles, you have a brake booster right here, mostly the right-hand side of the engine bay. What you can do is use this air line that comes off of this brake booster, and that goes straight into the intake and through the engine and out the exhaust the exact same way. Like I said, not into the brake booster, but into this line. In this vehicle's case, you would have to take off your sensor that tells you how much air is going into the vehicle itself, so it can account for the extra air that's coming in. Now, I have my Chrysler 300M, that's a 2004. With the stock setup, this would run straight to the intake. You could take this off, run it to this pipe through the intake, but I'd be kind of worried about it dripping out, unless you have the throttle partially open and actually sucking in. But in this case, there's a ton of lines that run off the intake, and I will most likely be using this one. All I have to do is I have to just pull it off right here, and I've got a little access point. And this is the actual vehicle that we're going to be working on today. You're going to want to make sure that your car is running when you actually do this, because you don't want to hydro lock your engine. Bad things will happen if you do that. So, get it started up. Like I said, we're going to go through this. You can hear it. And you're just going to want to let it slurp in. You don't want to let it gulp it in. Your engine will die out on you, and that's not a good thing. It's kind of hard to get this set up. Alright guys, now that that's sucked in, about a third of it, you're going to want to let your car sit here, and you're just going to want to turn it off. You're going to want to let it sit for at least 5 minutes. It's not going to hurt to let it sit overnight. In fact, that could actually probably be a good thing, but I'm only going to let it sit for 5 minutes because I like to let my engine I like to let it be a little bit warm for when we restart it. Forgot to mention, don't forget to put this back on. Whatever hose you take off, put it back on. Otherwise you're going to be sucking in dirty air, or in this case, your oil will be ventilating into dirty air. It won't be getting filtered. And in this case, on this Nissan, you wouldn't have any brakes. You'd notice right away. But I heard a slight hiss, and it's probably a good thing that I noticed before I actually got on the road, because my engine would be soaking in. In this wait time, it's a good idea to probably clean out your car, go to lunch, clean out your project car, clean out your girlfriend's car. She'll really like that. And you know, it'll help you out in the end because you'll benefit from something that you otherwise would have been doing nothing. We're going to go on to this next part. Don't freak out. You're going to see white smoke coming out your exhaust. It's perfectly normal. And we're going to go over that here. All right, let's start her up. Like I said, you're going to have some white smoke coming out the back. And I'll show you that here in a second. But I'm going to tell you how to do this without really doing any harm to your engine. We're going to do some rev cycles that don't go too high up in the RPM and give the engine a little bit of building up the carbon so you can just push it all out in one big burst over the course of a couple minutes. Here we go. Kind of hard to start up. It's having a little bit of a hard time. I'm starting to see white smoke. We're just going to give it a couple 2.5 to 3.5 RPM revs. Every about 10 seconds it builds up the smoke, pushes it all out. I'm probably going to do one every probably about 10-15 seconds for probably about 1.5 minutes, and then I just let it sit and then go to 30-second intervals for about 2 minutes. I can kind of see some, just a little bit of white smoke coming out here and there. And depending on your exhaust setup, you may have a lot of carbon, which is the white smoke, or you might have not much at all. All right, so that's the majority of it. Now I'm just gonna kind of let it sit here and idle so it can just build up that last little bit that's in there, that's building up in there to be all forced out. That's why we're doing about 30-second intervals for 2 minutes. which I don't know how to measure that right now. I don't have a stopwatch or anything, so I'm just kind of going off of what I think is right. It just starts pushing out whatever's left in there, and at this point you're probably set. Depending on your exhaust setup, sometimes your mufflers will collect it and you won't see near as much white smoke, but it's still coming out. It might not be as fast as what you think it is. You'll probably see on mine that it comes out pretty thick, but that's perfectly normal if you have a completely stock setup. I did this on my grandparents' Dodge Durango and almost nothing came out, but it ran so much better near the end. After you're finished with your rev cycles, just go on a test drive, about 10 minutes. It's just going to clear out anything that's left so that you won't have any white smoke appearing when you start up the next morning or later on in the day. It'll just keep you from freaking out because you wouldn't know where it's from. Then you'd realize it's from the Seafoam. It just clears out the system, make sure everything's cleaned up. And well, thanks for joining me today. I hope this taught you how to Seafoam through your intake. Hopefully this worked out good for you and it benefits you in the future.